Can we hear me? Good. All right. Excellent. 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 It's so good to see you guys. All right. Let's make sure that you can see this too. Good. Okay. So let me look at everyone again. So I just love seeing your faces. You don't realize how much you miss everybody until you start to see everyone again, right? It's just so good. Hopefully more and more will happen in person. I actually have 3 business trips over the next 3 weeks. So I guess we will be doing more in person. We're getting to that point. Okay, so you guys had a lot of homework. So let's dive right in. And I'm sure you all have your homework assignments written there. Oh, I had an email right before I came online asking about the next intuition class. And it's I think it's on my website now. It's going to be from now on. It's going to be this. Can you guys see this? Yeah. Okay. So, second Monday of each month. Right now, has been traditionally for a long time. It's been my New York City Enlightenment Power Group on that night. But when I looked through the chat room from our last class, I had at least 80% of people asked for a Monday. So I'm going to accommodate you by stealing the Monday from the New York City group, and we'll meet that day, and then I'll figure out what to do with that down the road. Within a week, I have to figure that out, but I'll figure it out. So you guys now get the second Monday of every month. And unless there's some kind of a holiday or something going on, it'll just be every single Monday continuously, with homework assignments and partner assignments and all of that on an ongoing basis. This is going to be like a workshop. We're digging rolling our sleeves up and digging in and really getting to work with it. The way
Aaron, what time?
It's 7 to 8:30.
7 to 8. Okay.
Yeah. And just so you know, I'm making it 7 to 8:30 because it's on Zoom. You get no breaks, and it's a little bit harder to talk a lot on Zoom than it is in person, especially without any breaks. But it's if we go a little bit over on that 8:30, I'm not going to cut us off if we're in the middle of something that's a discussion or we got something big going in the chat room. It's not like I'm going to cut you off flat at 8:30, but just say like 7 to 8:30. I've thought a lot about how to structure it. Instead of doing the 30 days in advance, it just gets too confusing, and it's just too much paperwork for us to try to figure out if somebody's in or they're out, and for me to keep track of people's partners and all that. If you're registering 1 month in advance, and then we have this month's meeting, but you're registered for the following, so it's too much tracking. So what I'm going to do instead, to keep it really simple, is we're going to have just an auto subscribing to it for 4 months in advance. And anytime you want to cancel, you just cancel. That way everything is automated. All right. If you don't want to be a part of it, you just cancel your subscription. But this way, I'm always working with whoever's on the registration list when I'm putting together assignments and homework assignments and all of that, and keeping track of everything. The other thing too is I had an interesting occurrence where 2 people whose names were picked out of a hat, they wound up not connecting, and it turned out that neither one of them could connect, which was really wild. So I didn't even find out that they hadn't connected until I don't know, it was probably like last week. But I just thought it was fascinating, and that's the way the universe works. I just thought it was like one more piece of evidence about how the universe works to support us, that out of 35 people, the only 2 that didn't have an opportunity to do the homework assignment or even connect with each other or even read their email, that they got assigned to each other. Okay. But I did want you to know that even though this ongoing class is going to have partner assignments, if for any reason you prefer working alone, and I can understand that you might prefer to work alone, all you have to do is email me. I won't give you a partner, and I will give you something similar energetically that will be a solo assignment so that you're still a part of what's going on. So it might be 1 month you just can't do it, the homework assignment with a partner, or maybe you just prefer working solo. Whatever your reason, it doesn't matter. If you want solo instead of partner, all you have to do is email me and I'll give you an alternative. And that will hopefully bring you to some sense of what we might get together. The reason that I'm adding such a component of working with partners is because one of the challenges with developing intuition is that you don't usually on an ongoing basis have someone in your life who can tell you about your wins. Okay. So you're having wins and you're having more wins and you're having more wins. But if no one's telling you like, oh, I can't believe it. I just was, talking to him yesterday and now you're bringing this up, or I was just thought of that the other day, or I just saw that, or I just, that if you don't get input or feedback or conversation on it, then you're not going to be able to validate how intuitive you are or are becoming and where it's growing and what areas you can see opening up. Okay. And that's the reason we're doing it. One of the advantages that I have is after those 2 years of locking myself in a room, figuring out how to communicate with guides, I came out full force. And so I've had feedback from human beings every day for all of these years. So it's constant validation that I get where people are giving feedback and like, oh, well, that makes sense, or I can relate to that, or I just had that in a dream, or I was just thinking about doing that. So one of the reasons why my intuition stays so completely connected is because I'm getting validation constantly. And you don't have the privilege of it if you're not necessarily doing something like that for a living. We're starting right out in December. So whatever the second, I should have looked up the date, but the second Monday of December is when we will begin. The other thing is if you just want to pop in once in a while and you don't feel like doing it on an ongoing basis, I'll also have it so that you can register just for that 1 month at a higher fee, because that's what you have to do, right? But you can pop in if it's sort of something like, oh, it's the second Monday of the month and I think I'd like to see what's going on in intuition development. Of course, there's always value, even if you didn't participate in the assignments or you're not aware of what we're talking about on an ongoing basis. But I want to see us just really support each other and grow together. It's just so nice to grow together. Did I say everything I wanted to say about that? I think I did. And the December 14th. Thank you. I knew that would pop up there somehow. December 14th is our first date. I was going to say something else, but I don't remember. Oh, I channeled the description for it a couple of days ago, and I don't know if that's up on my website yet, but you guys are going everywhere. We're going everywhere in intuition, everywhere. So look at the description online. I don't know if it's up today or not on my website. And I'm sure they'll probably send it out Sunday night too with your tip of the week. So Sunday night, they'll probably, I'm imagining that I have so many things going on next week. So I don't know if it's going to make the cut or not, but they'll probably have it in your Sunday night email as well. And that's that. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that. Okay. And you can join anytime. You can start the subscription anytime. So if and you'll also always get the video the day after. So if you do ever miss a class, it's no problem. If you have a partner, of course, you're going to connect with that partner before and after, so that you're, respecting that relationship as well. But you'll get the video the following day, all the time, whether you can be there live or not. Oh, thank you. The videos are so helpful. Thank you. I'm so glad. Good. Okay, so I want to take a peek and look at everybody who's online right now, because anyone that I can see your faces, I'm going to ask you the questions. This is like teachers going around and checking your homework assignments. Okay, so let's do a raise of hand. Who logged in their dreams?
Yes.
Oh, wow. All right, cool. Okay, good. Who was able to quiet their mind 20 minutes at least 3 to 4 times a week? Yes, yes, yes. All right, all right, all right. Good. So I don't have too many parents to call right now. So we're doing pretty well. Who jotted down the good ideas that popped in their head this month? All right, we're a little lower on that one. So we'll figure out what's going on there. And thumbs are coming up for people I can't see. That's so cool. I never even knew that existed. That was so cool. Wow. All right. And who did the stuck assignment with your partner? All right. Good. Good. Pretty good. And who wrote down a list of their attachments? Oh, that's good turnout there. Good turnout. If your partner's not on yet tonight, it's perfectly okay, because just because the class is technically expiring tonight doesn't mean that you can't connect tomorrow when we talk about it. And not everybody's going to be speaking about it anyway. So if you find anything of value and your partner's not here tonight, then just contact them tomorrow or email them, and you can have a conversation about it or swap notes or share anything else that you want to about it. All right. Laurie, let's start out with, if anyone here had an experience. One of the things I introduced was the idea that if you have a dream that you recall, and there was something in the dream, some parameter that doesn't exist within your birth moment to your moment today, that what you're doing is you're tapping into a previous life or a future life. So did anyone here, I know it's only been 1 month and you were only introduced to that idea once, so it's kind of a big ask if anybody actually had an experience like that. Did anyone have an experience like that where they dreamed about themselves not as themselves, maybe not female? Oh, you did, Christine? Would you like to unmute and talk about it? I'm sorry, I can't.
Trying to unmute myself.
Oh, okay.
It was a long time ago, but I don't remember it so much, but it definitely was not me. I was not in the same setting. I didn't recognize any of the people. Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember anything at all about what your lens of perspective was? Because if we're not who we are now, sometimes we have a consciousness of being someone else, whether it's being a different religion or living in a different geography, or having, even if you can't see yourself, maybe a different skin color or ethnicity, or a very different perception about your life. Do you remember anything like that, Christine?
No, I felt like I was male. It was like very dark around me. Dark people, like the whole feeling was dark and a little scary.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember too much. Like I said, it was a while ago, but I always felt that was a past life.
Okay. I'm going to say thumbs up, because when you started to say that you had this happen in a dream, I did pick up on it, and I did get you being male. So even if you hadn't said I was male, I was going to say that you were male, because I just know it. But the other thing is, it's interesting that you said that it was dark, because what I also picked up on, which is weird use of the word dark, is I got that it was a lifetime in the dark ages, which makes a lot of sense. That, you know, when we were living in the dark ages, we certainly didn't call it the dark ages. We had to be way beyond that to realize there was like no light, there was no joy, there was no real love going on. It was just really awful. But that is the lifetime that I picked up that you picked up. There was such a dreariness and a dread, and it was a lifetime filled with a lot of death, a lot of abuse, a lot of slaughtering, a lot of all of that. So much so that in this lifetime, you probably metaphorically embrace sunlight more than maybe most people do. And part of that is to try to get that darkness, the emotional darkness out of your system. So there is a metaphor between the sun and enlightenment, of course, but you have executed that unconscious knowledge by really being a sun person. Okay. It doesn't mean necessarily that you're baking in it, but you do bask in it, and you do feel depleted when you are not getting a certain amount of sun energy. I would not recommend that you move to London or Seattle anytime soon.
I definitely like the light. I'm always saying I need light. I need light.
There you go. There you go. But it's kind of cool when you have a taste of that in a dream. It gets you very excited because you have a sense of validation that this is something that's possible for me. And now that all of you are hearing it again, you can perhaps remember to say a suggestion that I will dream about a past life, and I will recall some of the details in a meaningful or helpful way. And that's if that's an interesting exploration for you. I personally love exploring my past lives because I have gotten so much knowledge about myself and about my journey here. And it's not the way we often hear it on this planet about, you know, there's debt. There's no debt. There's no punishment. It's about this continuum, a continuing desire to open up opportunities. And if an opportunity is presented and we fail to open it or integrate it in a lifetime, the desire remains with us. So past lives are so illuminating because we get to make discoveries of why something is showing itself in this lifetime, not as a punishment, but as an opportunity to integrate a discovery that's there for us to integrate. I'm just reading some of the messages. Kelly, that's so fascinating. I've never heard of that before. That when you log your dreams, you include what the light quality was and the time of day. I never thought of doing that, but that's fascinating. And I don't know if I'm consciously aware of the lighting circumstances of my dreams either. So that's interesting. So there's a good chance that you too are also moving past a darker lifetime and so conscious of the light in your dreams because you are embracing it in this lifetime. Come here, baby. All right, let's see. This is the homework assignment. It was an exploration assignment. You can't assign yourself to recall a time of different life, person, or language. It's one of those things where I was asking you to be aware of it. And if you are logging your dreams, to note if there were any different parameter of yourself in that dream than you are in this lifetime. And different language is definitely one of them, or a different person or a different gender. So yes, that's it. Did you have an experience, Margaret? And the location? Not you can be in different places in a dream and it's not a past life, but if you just have a sense of like really, really living somewhere else, then you know that you are not like everybody sees that. The only way I knew she was there was because I saw her. I think in a past life I was a cat.
Yeah.
There she is. Hey, Andy. Goofball. That's so funny. Um, this is one of 6 kittens that was born under our deck. So there she is. I guess she wants to become famous, right? She wants to be on TV. Andy, what are you doing? Goofball.
I'll share mine.
Okay, so I was going to say she's got me so distracted. I got to come back to you guys now. Yeah, share, Margaret.
Okay, so you want me to write it or talk? Speak.
I just say it since you're unmuted anyway.
Okay. So I think it was my very recent past life. I'm not 100% sure, but I was a little boy. I lived in the Midwest, and my name was Donald.
Oh, you even got a name.
And
wow.
I had a sister. Her name was Megan.
Interesting.
And our parents had died. I wasn't particularly sure how they died until the end. I think they died of rheumatic fever.
Wow.
Both of them. So then my grandparents at that time took us in. They owned a local grocery store, general store, candy store, some type of store. But we were too much for the grandparents because they were much older. So they put us up for adoption.
Oh, wow.
And
wow.
we were adopted into a childless couple that were extremely poor. I don't even think it was adoption. I think it was more like the church or whatever religious order there was kind of handed us over to them. But we were cheap hired hand. And we had to sleep in the barn. That was where our bedrooms were. And we had to do chores on the farm. And if we didn't do our chores, we got beaten. And we also did not get to eat dinner.
Wow. That's a lot of remembering, Margaret.
Yeah.
I think you're going to set everybody else up for
I'm sorry.
a sense of failure. But that's a lot. That's really a lot. But so let me ask you a question. What's your takeaway? Like, what discovery did you make about some of your choices in this lifetime? Because that's what intuition does, is it gives us a chance to make the links, to learn more about who we are now or why certain things happen.
Well, I was very poor. So I guess not to take what you have for granted and not to take your health for granted. My sister and I were extremely close. So, and in this lifetime, my brothers and I are very close.
Okay.
So
the sense of camaraderie among siblings was something that you took with it. Okay.
Yeah. But I died at like the age 8 or 9.
Jeez.
I think I died of rheumatic fever as well.
Okay.
Or some type of virus. I'm going to say this was the 1800s, mid to late. And unfortunately, my sister, she kind of went haywire after I died. She left and she became the lady of the night in the local bar.
Huh. So, well, it certainly can pull you out of poverty, right?
Well, that's
the upside.
She got a place to stay and she got food for free, but at night she had to work for it.
Okay. Earn her keep.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you for sharing that, Margaret. I'll talk about it a little bit more just as an illustration. But what's interesting is when you do start to stumble in your past lives, if you stumble in, the easiest way to stumble into it is in a dream, because that's when your thinking self is quiet, and that's how your consciousness can go out there and grab information that you have access to on some level of consciousness. But when you do and you record it, it can also open up the possibility of being able to examine that lifetime or remember or recall that lifetime far more in this earth life, but consciously, and not relying only on dreams to have that recall. Okay. So every single win that we get where we enter into a space that we might not have entered in before, it's expanding not only that one area for connecting, but it expands into different ways of developing our intuition. It just keeps chiseling away at the separators that make us believe that we are finite or separate from our eternal journey, or separate from each other, or separate from a past life. Okay. One of the reasons why we're looking at such a huge variety of mechanisms in this class is not just because we're going to sew it all up and wrap it up today, but it's because these are useful tools to develop intuition. And the ones that you feel the most curious about, and the ones that you feel most compatible with, those are going to be pathways for you to see that there's always spillover, that once this starts to pop a little bit more, it spills into here. You know, I one thing that was very funny in my first 2 years when I was really communicating with guides, my first method of communicating with them was on a guide board, as most of you know. And my second method was then auto writing. And what's fascinating about that is that I used to use the guide board, and then I would auto write to find out if what I got on the guide board was true. And then I would use auto writing to see, and then I would use the guide board to see if what I got in auto writing was true. It was like, what a weird loop to be in. But there was a different vibration, a different sense of validation that I got from each one. There was a different sense of knowingness, a different opportunity or ease in connecting through one of those ways over the other. And that's why it's really a good idea to just keep exploring and examining and having fun and playing with a lot of different methods or possibilities, because you never know which is going to be the one where you explode into infinite knowingness and infinite possibilities. We're all just by nature in being on this class tonight, it means that we're perched on an edge where we can almost touch or taste or feel or sense our intuitive ability about to burst open. Not that you haven't demonstrated it yet, but there's going to be another edge and another opening. Okay. All right. All right. So does anyone want to share anything that they had happen with a good idea popping in their head over the last month? Or any time, actually, for that matter, where you can say, a good idea popped in my head. I wasn't thinking about it, but I took action on that good idea. And there was a result that I can now see as showing evidence of guides helping to support me, because I would not have done that had that idea not popped in my head. And an idea popping in our head is picking up the conscious energy of a non-physical source other than yourself. Okay. Does anybody have anything like that that they can share? Oh, I noticed for the first time, I think it was Sandy, but I saw a hand up. Does that mean that someone's raising their hand?
That's me.
Oh,
Barbara?
okay. Yeah. Was it like an electronic hand?
No, that's my real hand.
Oh, there was someone that had like a hand mark. I noticed it for the first time. Okay. But Barbara, you wanted to say something?
I actually had the first experience I ever had, and it was 1985.
Oh, that's memorable.
But my parents were having an anniversary come up, and they were it was 40 years, which was a big deal in their family. And I got an inspiration to throw them a surprise valve renewal.
Wow.
So I knew they would go for it. They were involved in Marriage Encounter, so I knew they would be thrilled by it. The interesting thing was, though, their anniversary was in August. And we figured people would be on vacation, not be able to do it. So it would really be a surprise if we did it in April.
Okay.
So we had invitations printed up and mailed them the invitation. And of course, they were thrilled. And it was a wonderful, wonderful time. Everyone made it.
Wow.
My father died suddenly 3 weeks before the anniversary in August.
Oh, wow.
So I
Oh
actually,
my God.
if I had ignored the inspiration to have it when I did, they would have never had that last memorable moment together.
I got the chills all over, Barbara.
I get those little voices and it's like, okay, done. I'm on it.
Jeez, that's a fantastic example. Fantastic example. Thank you so much for sharing that. But that's where you could see the hands of souls in there supporting us and guiding us and watching over us and helping us. And it's just, that's such a, I mean, I'm sorry that your father died like that, but it's such a beautiful outcome that you listened to the pop in your head and then you did it even to do it in April instead of August. Like that's kind of, we can all agree that's a weird thing to do. I could see doing it in, July or I don't know, or waiting till September, but that's an amazing, amazing, amazing example. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And now I do see the electronic hand. Sandy, did you have something that you wanted to say or share?
Hi, Karen. No, I was just answering your question about the question you asked in the beginning. Raise your hand if you had this experience. So it was a while back.
Oh, no problem. So you're just showing off that you can raise your hand electronically while the rest of us are like, ooh.
Well, that I figured that out, but I can't figure out how to type in there. So
okay. All right, that's cool. And I now know it's a feature, so I can maybe one day I'll be advanced enough to tell people to, do all that stuff electronically. Who knows? There's hope for me yet. Okay, good. That was a great example. I'm so glad that you gave that example. All right. Now I'm going to ask if anybody has a story that they can share of any significant difference that they felt or any new sense of connectedness that they experienced because they've increased their commitment to quieting their mind. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that happens while your mind is quieted, but it could be that you've quieted your mind more deliberately, like 3 or 4 times a week. And now there's this other stuff that seems to be appearing or happening more. Anyone have that kind of a story to share? All right, well, then I will. Okay, I'm sure you all have examples. Good answer, Susan. Sue, my example is that, my first big opening when I had my first big psychic moment was, on 9/11, 2001, as you all know. And I didn't really understand why it happened for many, many years. But it is really important to understand that I finished a run at 5 to 9 that morning. And that was the exact time that the first plane hit the first tower. So I quiet my mind by running or by being out in nature or by hiking. Those are my primary ways I do it. Back then, I didn't know I was quieting my mind, but what it did was it cleared off the canvas of the left brain so that big, big moment could come in. Okay. So I know there were other parameters going on that day that allowed me to have my first big opening on that day, but certainly I would not have had that first big moment had I not run. So keep thinking in terms of how do my experiences and interconnectedness and ability to connect with guides or feelings or sensations or knowingness or to improve my auto writing or my dream recall or my interpretation of messages or any of those things that help us to strip away the idea of us of being a separate being from the whole human experience. when you quiet your mind, these things will happen more liberally. It's an inevitable consequence of making sure that you quiet your mind. Here's another way of looking at it too. If you live with people at home, think about how different it is when no one's there, the energy. You could all be in different rooms, incredibly absorbed for hours in whatever you're doing, but your energy is different. Does everyone sense that? There's a part of us that's consciously aware of someone else in the house, even if they don't command attention, even if they don't need you to do something, even if they're not making any noise whatsoever. There's an energy. So quieting your mind is the way that we can eliminate all of those other energies, even the ones that we don't think are intruding. Okay? So there's nothing, I'm not saying that it's terrible having someone else in the house with you, but it's different. It's different. It's not a true quiet mind experience when you even have other people in the room. Unless you have a headset on and you've got a playlist, or you've closed your door, or you've said to everybody, I'm going to go meditate, and you've turned off your phone. Unless you really isolate yourself when there's other people in the house, you're still going to have a piece of you that's with them. All right? Okay. Let's turn our attention to the big, I like it better when everyone's gone. Yeah, it's totally different when someone is in the house. Totally. You know, what's interesting too, you ever have it happen that you were supposed to be alone when you came home? So you walk into the house and you expect to be alone, but then you're there for a minute or so and there's no noise whatsoever, but all of a sudden you get a sense that there's someone else home with you, right? And vice versa. You come home and you expect there to be somebody, and then all of a sudden you get this sense of a different kind of silence, and you discover nobody's there. We have this really cool intuition when we just listen to it. Because even the first time you shout out someone's name in your house, seeing if they're going to answer, you know there's going to be no answer, because you know that they're not home, even though you didn't know they weren't home, right? This is part of like what quieting your mind does for you. Your cat will only lay on your lap when you're meditating. That's so sweet. She never used to sit in my lap when I would be on Zoom. This is only because her best friend in the whole wide world went away to college. So I'm sort of like second runner up. You know, I'm no cat's meow. I'm just second runner up. All right. So, okay, cool. Oh, it's funny that you should say that, Barbara, because it brings me to, before I get to the partner assignment, it brings me to a topic that we wanted to talk about tonight, and that is rules. Okay. When you listen to a lot of rules, you will distract yourself and be less likely to be intuitive. Okay. And it reminded me of, I had a client a long time ago, and we were doing sessions, I think once a month or once every other week or something like that. And she was really upset in one session. And so, you know, immediately she starts to tell me that her meditation hasn't been good. She's just can't quiet her mind anymore. And I'm like, this is just not like her. There was some missing piece that she wasn't telling me. And what wound up happening was she was taking a yoga class or something, and her yoga teacher told her that in conversation, you cannot have your dog in the room with you when you meditate. And so she had always meditated with her dog in the room. And then after the yoga guru said, you can't meditate with the dog in the room, she would put the dog out, and then she couldn't meditate anymore. So it's like, well, don't listen to stupid rules. Why can't your dog be there in the room when you're practicing yoga or meditating? If you can do it, then don't listen to the rule. If you can't, it's not a rule, then just figure it out, but it's not a rule, right? So don't listen to or make unnecessary rules. Human beings love rules. They just love them. They love to follow them. They love to give them. They love to make them. They love to make you make them and take them and do them, but let it go. Rules are almost the opposite of intuition. Okay. Let me read this. Oh, that's a very funny, Margaret. That's really interesting. Very funny. Yeah, they did an experiment. I don't remember the details about it, but they had a room of dozens and dozens of people, and they would have one of those people, 50 or 60 people, would look at the subject when the subject didn't know it. And the subject had to say when they were being looked at. They always got it right when they were being looked at, and the person would look away and make no signs whatsoever of looking at the person. But not only did the subject know they were being looked at, but they could even go around that 50 people and tell you who was looking at them. They could go over to that area, no matter where that area was, and say it was him. So we are so much more intuitive than we give ourselves credit. And these are just signs and evidence of that. Okay. All right. So now, partner assignment. Let me look at everybody and see. Did anyone have any surprises in their partner assignment? Any big happenings? Any discovery? Stephanie? Yeah, can you share?
I can, yeah.
Okay.
So after we shared our situation that we were stuck on, at first I tried to quiet my mind and think of something, and I was like blank, and I thought, oh, I'm going to completely fail. So I left it, and another day I was actually kind of just meditating quietly before I was going to do an auto writing assignment, and I literally had a pop, that like it was one of the few times I really recognized a pop, and it was like 3 words, but it was enough that I recognized it. And then another day I was sitting outside with my dog in the sun, and a similar sort of and I was thinking about it, but just hanging outside, calm. And the same sort of thing. I had a very specific pop. Again, just like 3 or 4 words, but I knew again, I could recognize that this was different from my norm,
Right.
And maybe an hour later, I was having lunch and reading a book, and the book happens to be about intuition, and I was going to stop where I was and go off to do things I needed to get done. And it just occurred to me, no, read a couple more pages. And when I turned the page, like there was a paragraph in this book that was very specific to the pops I had and the issue that my partner was stuck on. And it just, it was so obviously connected to me that it blew my mind, to be honest. Yeah.
That is so cool. That's a great example of how this works, and a great example of why you want to listen to the pops, but also how it just tears away at the misconception of any disconnect that we have. Like what had to go into you getting those pops and you having that partner, and that partner having the stuck stuff that she had. I mean, think of all of the details that went into those moments for you. And then the book, and then you sticking with the book for a couple of more pages after you had originally said I was going to stop. That's magnificent. There's so many layers and levels of intuition in that example. And that is truly what's possible for all of us. That's truly what's possible for all of us. And that's pretty much how my life is on a regular basis. It's like, I don't lose any awe, but it's just like this all the time. And again, I get so much feedback because of what I do for a living. And part of this class is so you guys get more feedback, because you never would have known that if you didn't have that homework assignment.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I think that made it so much more powerful for me, to recognize this really was what was happening, and then I was like so excited to share it.
I think it's amazing. And how did your partner react?
Yeah, I think she was excited because I think that it had relevance to her.
Okay.
And yeah, she also felt that it was.
So then it had relevance too. So that's like, all right, so first base was getting a pop. Second base was getting another pop or two. Third base was the story of the reading the book. And then the home run was that it was relevant. Wow, you really went full circle around that. Or full diamond, I should say. You really went full diamond. That's awesome. That's really great. Okay, did anybody else have any kind of experiences with that homework that they want to share? Jeannie.
Okay, so I was blessed to work with Sita. And is she on? I just want to make sure that I can share what she was stuck with.
She is there. She's on.
Yeah.
Sita,
Yeah.
Can I share what you were stuck with?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So she is debating whether or not to do a major renovation in her home or to move. And there were pros and cons with each of them. And she's been debating this for a few years. So she wants to make the decision now. The time is ripe. And so that was her stuck. And I only got one hit, but I thought it was hilarious. And I think Sita did too, because I was in the shower and I was thinking about her. And all of a sudden the Clash started booming in my head, their song, Should I Stay or Should I Go Now? And the lyrics are amazing. I couldn't remember them, so I had to look them up, and I didn't look them up until the next day. So the part of the lyrics is, should I stay or should I go? If I go, there will be trouble. And if I stay, it will be double.
Oh, wow.
So I just thought that was fascinating, and I enjoyed sharing it. And she had some happenings about whether she should stay or go or come to a third realization, which is where I think she's going to end up, but she's still working on it. But I haven't heard that song in so many years, and all of a sudden it's playing full force in the shower, and I giggled about it for days. So
that's a really, really, really great story too.
And what's interesting is I looked up the lyrics after we talked, and the lyrics go on to say exactly whom I'm supposed to be. Don't you know which clothes even fit me? And it got me thinking about some of my other stuck issues, and it led to, I kind of realized what it was saying at the end. It took me a little while to get there. But my other stuck piece about where I want to live and how I want to live, and whether I want to be a person with layers or a person without all these layers. And I realized the house, it just has nothing to do with the house. I have to make a decision on another front first before I can even, think like the house is really not the decision point.
Wow. That's a lot of happenings with that homework assignment. And that partner assignment. She
also got a funny hit. I mean, I think that the universe was really tickling our funny bones. So, Sita, if you want to share.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was interesting. I was thinking about Janine. I was driving, and I was thinking, I've got to I kept asking the guides. I was asking Thomas Edison. I was asking anybody. I was like,
on, I gotta get something. Because I was trying really hard not to let the logical side of my brain come up with solutions for her. And so I'm driving my car, and in her situation, she's battling with this couple that's really doing a number on attacking her personally. And so I was driving my car, and all of a sudden I look at the license plate in front of me, and it was X99LYR, like liar. And I just kept watching. I was like, liar. I know they're liars. They're liars. They're being really mean to her. And I was like, but what else? What does that mean? And there was a part of me that was like, wow, how ridiculous is this? That, the universe is flashing to me that they're liars. Yes, we know they're liars, but the amount of energy and intensity in what they're trying to do, how ridiculous is it? And it was just, but then it was just fascinating to me that it was a license plate that all things that, and that it actually spelled out liar. But that was the hit that I got, but it was just, it just made me laugh because of how in my face it was right there. And, when I was thinking about her.
Wow.
What's really funny is I looked up, because I look up everything, X99, which is some specific desirable motherboard for computers. And I thought, I have no idea what the connection is, but maybe Karen will. Because it is weird that it actually means something.
Yeah, it is kind of weird that it means something. The thing that I got when you just said that is I got this vision of, the old-fashioned operators boards when they connect one line to another, but you have to go through the switchboard. That's sort of what I was getting, that, even though they're big liars and they're having such an effect on Jeannie, and Sita's coming in to try to give some information and get it intuitively, the switchboard, the board is just showing that we're all in this together, and whatever gains those individuals have by lying, hopefully one day you'll see the benefit or you'll unfold the purpose. But hopefully, more importantly, is they're switched into the same board. They're not doing this in a vacuum somewhere, but hopefully the vibration of your phone call will come through to them, and maybe they'll be prompted to have an awakening or to take stock in their own lives. That side's less possible, but we can put the hope out there. But it was just a sense of, that connection. And isn't that what we're doing, right? We're intending to link into something. Sometimes we're specific about what we're trying to link into when we're trying to plug into that board where we can access the information. But what's interesting to me too, to bring all of these amazing happenings to another level even, is that we've got one guide showing some information through a license plate. We've got another one through lyrics in a song that pops into the head. We got another one coming by good ideas that pop in her head. It's almost like each one of us is taking a different method so that we're having it illustrated for all of us. And that's what this is. That's what this is all about, to see that there are no limits. There's so many different ways that we can get and receive and interpret information. And it's all there for us for the taking. It's all there for us for the taking. Oh, that was pretty interesting. Very interesting. Anyone else have anything that you'd like to share about those homework assignments? Okay, we're good. Now, what I explained last time is that the reason the two assignments were so different is because we have a propensity toward being emotionally intuitive or being factually intuitive. And most of us have a stronger ability, natural ability in one area or the other. And then we have the corollary, which is a less strong ability in the other one. And let me show you how this works. So an example would be, we're going to be doing this in the classes that come up, but one of the things that I do in intuition development classes when we're in person is I have these balls that are, one is red, blue, yellow, purple, orange, green. And depending on where that class is, I hide them and then I put them in an order, and everybody in the class writes down the order. And we do this over and over and over again. And it's really liberating and very illuminating. And there are some people that just have magnificent intuition with it. Magnificent intuition in a test, like, not a test, but in an experiment like that, would be that you got 2 right out of 4. You had 2 balls in the right spot out of 4 tries, right? That's pretty darn good when you're doing something that specific. But then there are other people where, when it comes to the facts, they wipe out every assignment that they do when it comes to facts or data or the material world or the physical world. They got nothing. I got nothing. But when it comes to something being driven by emotions or by any kinds of feelings or experiences, then they're the ones in the class that are just popping with everything. And it's interesting, like I said, when we're doing this class, we're going to experiment more with both methods. So you can see that you might think you are not intuitive, but let's just move to another method, and let's move to another method, and let's move to another method, because we are going to find something that feels right and natural for you. And when we do find that, again, it spills over into other areas, and all of a sudden you find yourself having more success in areas that you didn't think you were compatible with before. Now, specifically, this assignment, the stuck assignment, is emotionally based. We started out with an emotion, being stuck. Most people don't say I'm stuck and feel really good. Stuck implies I'm not feeling so great. Otherwise, I wouldn't have assigned the word stuck to it. So your guide set you up with an emotional issue. And then they set you up with, I know this is emotional, so I want to help. So now they've kind of added something into your sense of, can I do this? I want to help. I want to be of value. And then there is a human ego involved too. I also want to be right. I don't want to be a failure. I don't want to be the one in the class that has no intuitive ability at all. So now you got the emotion of the stuckness, and then they threw a ton of extra emotion on there because we're looking at each other and giving answers that are going to wind up being helpful or not helpful, right? Where the first assignment was, it's a place, it's a verb, it's a noun. It's like, how was I supposed to get that? There's a million names out there. Of course I didn't get it. So there's no sense of emotional energy in it. So if you did better on that assignment, I don't like the word better, but if you had more sense of connectedness on that assignment, then you can now see that you might have more of a propensity to grow intuition in more fact-based physical kinds of exercises, right? But if that one was a wipeout and you hated it and you thought you came in last in class, but the next one, you were all of a sudden seeing license plates and getting pops and saying something to your partner, and she or he was like, oh, yeah, I never thought of it like that, but that is a good idea. I think I'm going to try it. Then you are drawn to opening your intuition through emotions. Okay. Now, I want to make sure that we're covering everything that we have on our agenda. The last homework assignment that you had was attachments. This is a big topic. Number one, when you're first asked to think about what attachments you had and write a list of it, most of us are going to go and either write out a million attachments, or because we want to be enlightened and we want to be awake, and we're also with people that we want to shine with, we're going to kind of half say, oh, I don't really think I'm attached to anything anymore. I think I'm pretty much over that. But when you really, really, really start to examine it and sit and think about it, attachments go far beyond people and stuff. Attachments are even being attached to the outcome of your stuck assignment. What's your partner's opinion? How did it feel to you? How did it feel to your partner? So our attachments go way beyond just what we would pull out of the surface. It's very easy to say, I'm not that attached to material objects anymore, because I think you get to a point when you're attracted to this kind of information in this kind of class where attachments to stuff might not be the biggest attachment that you have in your life anymore. Might be, and it's not a judgment, but it might not be. But there are still attachments to other things, whether it's an attachment to how I look, to how I sound, to whether I have a college degree or not, to my dog, to my daughter's happiness, to the kind of car I drive. I know that's material again, but it's more of the sense of the car that I think expresses who I am to others. So it's about appearances. So I'm attached to appearances. I'm attached to a story, or the story I would like other people to have about me. Okay. So when you went through this assignment, I'm hoping that you were able to pull up some of the ideas that I'm running through, not just your standard, I'm attached to this. I remember I was in my young 20s and I used the same brand of lipstick and the same color since the day I put lipstick on. And it never occurred to me to try a different lipstick because I bought one when I was, 14 maybe. And then I just went to the store and bought that one, and went to that store and bought that one, and went to the store and bought that one. And then one day in my early 20s, that lipstick was discontinued. And I remember I was like really, really uncomfortable, like really uncomfortable. So the first thing I did was I went around to a bunch of different stores to see if I could find any old ones in stock. And then I found, 3 at different stores, and I hoarded them and I put them in my drawer. And then like after that, then it was like, I tried to find inexpensive ones so I could try on different colors. And I must have spent so much money comparatively, whatever a 22-year-old kid has for money. I spent like a lot of money to try to replace that feeling that I got from that lipstick. And probably the only feeling I had from that stupid lipstick was just a habit. And I wasn't used to seeing myself in public without it on anymore. But granted, I'm not attached to my lipsticks anymore, especially with masks. I'm not attached to my lipsticks at all. But it's interesting when you think in terms of what else could I possibly be attached to, right? Like if I were to peel those glasses off Anne's face right now and accidentally step on them, like what would the reaction be? Is it just, well, now I can't see? Or would it be like, oh, but it was those frames. And I tried on 150 pair before I found the one that framed my face so beautifully. It's just so interesting to see, right? It's very interesting to see. So if you would like, type in some things that, whether they're funny or deep or interesting or witty, but see if you could all just, or anyone, just try to type in some of the attachments that you discovered, and I'll pop through them and give you some intuitive information about those attachments. Not necessarily your story, but how it impacts our intuitive ability, okay? Oh, I just read that note, Anne. Yeah, absolutely. Talk about attachment. That was the worst. While you guys are typing in there, I'll tell the little story, Anne, because that was pretty funny. I'm the last human being on earth to do away with a flip phone, much to the disappointment of my family that wanted me to be able to communicate in real time. So my family finally did an intervention because I had not only my flip phone razor that I was using, but I had 2 that people had donated to me in backup in my jewelry box, because that means it's important, right? Or at least sentimental. So they realized I had 2 in backup. So it might be, 2035 before I give this thing up. I'm still using T9. And so they did an intervention to try to get me to move forward. And they made an appointment for me where I kept saying this, it's too much technology. There's too much to learn. I can't, I can't learn all that. And it's just a lot. I don't know how to do it. And this is all my excuses. So they made an appointment for me with a tech guy. And we had a 1-hour appointment. He was going to like speed teach me and make sure that I left the appointment knowing how to use, it was an iPhone, knowing how to use an iPhone, right? So I go to the appointment and I get there and I'm talking to the guy for like 5 minutes and he's so nice and he's going to be so helpful, I can tell. And I get this like panicked feeling and I'm like, oh my God, I really can't do this. I don't want him to teach me. I don't want that stupid phone. I don't want to go home with this phone. And so I scurried, I can't even believe I did this, but I scurried out of the store with my razor phone in my hand. And then I sat in the parking lot in the car trying to think what excuse I could tell my family for my behavior. So yes, that's an attachment. So you know what? If I hadn't been so attached, maybe I would have intuitively been able to pick up the iPhone and kind of sort it out and do the things that I wanted to do. But intuition was completely blocked. I had completely ended my ability to even learn the technology that could have been very helpful or simple. It's interesting how you can actually almost feel the block when you're attached to something, right? Okay, so let me read through these. You're attached to cleaning and attached to being in control, having things organized, attached to routine, and you're anxious if things change from what you expect. Attached to your daughter's ability to handle her health challenges, attached to organization and efficiency, we got a long list there, Stephanie. That's a lot of honesty. I think you just wrote the list that we were all not sharing. So thank you so much for doing that. Quality alone time, the sun shining through your window, your dogs, being vegan or being VGAB. Being VGAB is also good. But okay, so this is a good list. I'm going to read the other one out loud. So even the people who are going to be watching the video after today, so they can know because they won't see the chat. Husband, kids, dogs, parents, health, family pictures, my iPhone. Look at you attached to your iPhone. You want one of my old razor phones instead? Love of outdoors, nature, sun, meditation, peanut butter. Ooh, that's a good one. Music, my independence, dreams of happy children and grandchildren, my worry stones. Wow, that's nice. That was nice of you to share. And part of sharing, it helps us to stimulate and widen our thoughts about some of the things that we're attached to that we might not realize. Good work, everybody. What I demonstrated through the story about the iPhone is there was another day when I actually did get an iPhone, okay? And I can't remember what finally broke my wall down. I think I might have borrowed one of my kids and saw how easy it was to text instead of the T9, right? And I'm like, ooh, that is kind of cool. But I did break that wall down. And what was really fascinating is no matter how many times somebody had taken their iPhone to show me how easy it was, and I couldn't understand it and I didn't link in. Once my wall broke down, the next time someone picked up the iPhone to show me something on it, I completely understood it and I learned it. And it was one of those moments where I had this aha aha moment at this big discovery that I was shutting down my ability to learn because I was attached to the Razor flip phone. I was afraid of the new technology. When I let that go, my ability or aptitude or what anybody has when they're learning new technology, it opened and the block went away. It was such a visceral feeling of how we prevent ourselves from being naturally engaged in something, how we set up blocks. And as we're looking through our attachments, these things that we recognize we're attached to, these are going to be our greatest inhibitors for our intuitive ability. That's the whole point of this exercise, is to look at that. So when I started to communicate with guides, I was getting a plethora of limitless information for clients and in seminars and for writing books. And then my husband would ask a question and I'd be a little shakier there, but I could figure out how to get myself out of the way, and then get a meaningful and sometimes verifiable answer for him. And then I would be trying to sort out my own life stuff and heal from childhood and all this. And I really had to put a lot more effort into learning how to quiet my mind so that I could be clear, to be able to even get a message of value, because it seemed to go flat every time I was trying to sort something out for myself. And the reason is I was increasingly attached to these things. So clients, it's not that I don't love clients, but I'm not necessarily attached. So the lack of attachment made it flow through me very easily. And then my husband, I'm a little more attached to his happiness because he's a part of my life, and so getting intuitive information was harder. And then we brought me in, and, I had set myself on a journey to learn how to be happy. So having had a really tough childhood, so of course I'm going to be attached to the information that would come through if it could help me to be happier. So I'm really upping the ante here, right? And then the hardest of all, and this brings me back to you, Jeannie, because of the example that you gave, but the hardest of all, the last place I was able to be intuitive, and now I can do it with my eyes closed, and I can be asleep, and I could be anything. I don't have any problem doing it, but it's my children. So, you care on levels about things, and then you just keep amping up that care. And obviously my kids were the thing I cared about more than even myself at the time. So getting intuitive information that could be of value to them, it was like, it was so hard for me to do. And it's true with anything. I have plenty of clients who are vastly intuitive in their business per se, or in their romantic relationship, or in their relationship with abundance, or in their relationship with their body. But then the second their puppy gets sick, they don't know a damn thing. They can't even sort through the information when they're looking things up online. They can't even sort through the information that comes from their vet because they are so attached to the puppy, more so than to anything else. Intuition shuts down and fear arises when we have attachments. Fear is the opposite of intuition. Hate is the opposite of intuition. So on a scale, I often talk about there's no such thing as hate. It's the absence of the vibration of love, right? So what hate feels like is what happens when there's no love. Fear is the same thing. When you feel afraid, you're not experiencing a vibration. You're feeling the absence of the vibration of love. And what dials down your sensation of being aligned with love is perceiving that something you care about is at risk. That's why attachments inhibit intuition. Attachments inhibit intuition. Okay. So one of the last places I was able to grow my intuition was when clients would tell me, I've never answered anyone this question to this day, but for other reasons than what I'm about to say. When clients would ask me, am I having a boy or a girl? I couldn't get an answer. And I was attached to the fact that I had a 50% chance of being right and a 50% chance of being wrong. And it was verifiable. So it was a public wrongness. So I was attached to that sensation. If I'm intuitive and I get the sex of your baby wrong, then I have to throw away every single meaningful thing that I've ever done. And maybe everything I've done is not meaningful, right? Do you see? So once I stopped being attached to the outcome about what the sex of someone's baby was, I pretty much get it right all the time, although I still don't tell people what the sex is, but I always get it right because I'm not attached. Okay. So there's even a quality of being attached to being right for myself, or being right in public, or being right where I declare it out loud and people are going to know if I'm right or if I'm wrong. So attachment creates fear. Fear of, I have a fear of being wrong. I have a fear of being poor. I have a fear of being sick. I have a fear of being lonely. I have a fear of my house being broken into and someone steals all my grandmother's jewelry. All of these things make us less intuitive. So oh my gosh, I can't even count the numbers of times people have called me to help them find something. And inevitably, it's usually a piece of jewelry. I see you laughing, Jeannie. So it's interesting. It could be a very, very intuitive person, but for damn sure, they cannot find that jewelry because they're attached to it. Not maybe even to the jewelry, but to someone's opinion if the jewelry is lost, right, Jeannie? But as soon as that happens, that this fear comes in, and fear is the barricade. Your intuition can't drive through fear. So looking at attachments is so purposeful and meaningful in an ongoing way, so that you can, number one, practice more with your intuition in all the exercises that we do. Practice more with things that you're not as attached to, okay? Because then you're setting yourself up for success instead of setting yourself up for failure. A natural extension of growth as you experience more validation in an area where you have fewer attachments is that you'll increasingly be able to use your intuition in areas where you have attachments. I knew I'd had a major breakthrough in those 2 years when I was communicating nonstop with guides. And we were at the Jones Beach Air Show, where the count is 500,000 people on the beach that day. And at one point, my 5-year-old son was missing. And he was missing for, it seemed like probably half hour to 45 minutes. And at that point, I still used a guide board to talk to guides, which meant that I would kind of read letters. I kept a little tiny guide board. Oh, I keep it on my desk. It's like a memento now. Little tiny guide board on my desk. This now is just a kind of a happy memory thing that I leave there on my desk. But I had this thing, it was laminated, and I was so attached to only being able to communicate with guides through this. I had it laminated. It was even a little smaller than this. And I put it in my bathing suit top so I wouldn't be without it at the beach. That's how attached I was to it. Now, the only thing I was more attached to than talking to guides was my children. And now my son is missing among 500,000 people for over a half hour. So I couldn't get any intuitive information because I was so afraid of what happened to him. And finally, I separated from our group of rescuers and I stood by myself and I shut out everybody and I got myself back to, I used to be able to get myself out of the way by just rolling my finger on the board because there's something almost meditative about it. It would start to get me into the zone of receiving information. So I just put my finger on the board and I got to a sense of peace. The second I got a feeling of peace, Brett was found. The second I got to a sense of peace, I got intuitive information on the board right then. He's okay. He's fine. Blah, blah, blah. Then for the first time all day, my cell phone rang on the beach, or I got a text on my cell phone where, I don't know if you guys know Jones Beach, like you can't get texts and you can't make phone calls. But all of a sudden this miraculous text comes through that says, we found Brett and he's up at the whatever station. So the point is that you can eventually use intuition in areas where you have a lot of deep attachment. And I can't think of any deeper attachment than having your 5-year-old boy missing. But it's steps. So don't be hard on yourself if you are working on something intuitively where you feel a pull or a draw or any kind of an attachment to the thing that it is that you're doing. Like getting back to, I was talking about the colored balls that we do in intuition development classes. For some people, there's an attachment to the rightness or wrongness of our ability to guess the balls. But when we stop caring how we do and we just let it pop, there's a tendency to start to see some improvement. But the attachment to the outcome is the thing that may prevent us from having more success. All right. So let's talk about a little bit of using some examples of some of the things that you guys wrote. Like, how can this attachment prevent our intuitive ability? Organization and efficiency. That's something that kept popping up a lot. Organization this is an easy one for me to illustrate. When I started this work, I immediately started channeling books. Okay. And so I left corporate and now I'm channeling books. I had this thing that I did. I'd clean my desk every single day before I would channel. There would not be anything out of place at all. I was so organized. And it wasn't until everything was visually appealing that I would sit down and put my hands on the keyboard and start to write the book. And what it was that organization prevented me from being intuitive because I felt like it was on like almost like a chore list or something, that if I got all this done, and then I had the freedom to do something that was optional, and writing the book was optional. So there's an example of how even being super organized is not intuitive, right? And here's another interesting thing. I wish you guys could see my desk because it's a sight. But anywhere you look on my desk, this is what it looks like. I can't imagine anyone coming in and being able to work. I don't have any organization. Let's say I don't have good organization anymore, but I know what's going on here. I know what these 3 triangles mean. I have a visual memory of those 3 triangles and of that circle and of that heart, because now it means something to me. But if I had it typed out and then printed out and laid on my desk, my mind wouldn't be able to come into it. So if I were super organized, I think I would be less intuitive because my intuition works better when I just be. And for others, it might not be, but that might not be an issue for you. When I was experimenting with intuition for what I eat or drink, let me preface this for those of you who have never heard me say this. One of the unexpected and not necessarily embraced byproducts of enlightenment is that I have been more sensitive to foods and things that I ingest. And I used to be like I'd have an iron stomach. I mean, I literally could eat nails and get the energy that I needed from the nails until I drank a glass of cyanide before I went to bed, and I'd be good to go. Now it's like, oh, I can't have too much salt. I can't have too much sugar. I can't have Doritos. I can't have this. I can't have that because I don't feel good. So what happens is as you become enlightened, you tend to, it's not just me, I'm not making a broad sweeping statement because I see this all the time with clients, but the more enlightened you become, the more connected you become to the earth and sources of food that come from the earth, right? So now the closer I am to eating off the earth, the better I feel. And the farther away I go from eating off the earth, the worse I feel. So I'm really working on like what foods and all this. So the sensitivity that I developed, it also lent itself toward alcohol. Yeah, thanks. So now I have, instead of being able to drink anything in a liquor store, top shelf, bottom shelf, middle shelf, all the shelves, I have maybe 10% of anything in a liquor store that I'm going to be compatible with. So kind of cuts down on the choice, and I do like a glass of wine now and then. So what I do now is I go into a liquor store and I sense my intuitive reaction to wine or whatever else. And I developed it over years, but sometimes I would even buy something that I thought I was not compatible with just to make sure that it was working or that it was accurate. So I would buy something that felt good, whether I was holding the bottle, and then I would buy something that didn't feel good. And I would drink either one, and sure as anything, the one that I intuited wasn't going to make me feel good always had a bad effect, even if I was doing it blind, like I had someone pour them and not tell me what bottle it was from. So it wasn't even a suggestion. It wasn't even suggestibility. It was actual intuition. Now, I'm not that attached to the outcome. So if I have a half a glass of wine and I start to not feel really great from it, big deal. I give the 7/8 of the bottle of wine to someone else because there's plenty of people around me that still have iron stomachs or dispositions. So I'm not really that attached to it, which is one of the reasons why my ability to figure it out is so easy, because I'm not attached to the outcome. And that particular aspect of intuition that I've developed, it's 100% accurate at this point in my life. 100% accurate. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. But at least it gives you another place that you can increasingly develop your own intuition in. There really are no limits. It's literally just a guide that's with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You don't even need to know the source when you're getting information that says turn left instead of right, or go straight, or wait 10 minutes, or bring an umbrella. All the time when these things turn out to support you, you're not alone. It's not just that your intuition is just contained within your own being. It's that you are open to sources, to guidance, to shared consciousness, to other energy, to other sources. So developing any one area is going to grow all of your areas. Okay. Let me take a peek at everybody again. So I would love for you guys to, on an ongoing basis, keep the solo homework assignments going. And for those of you who join us for the intuition development classes that are going to be continuing on the second Monday of each month, for those of you who continue, we'll work with partners. You'll sometimes have different partners, sometimes the same, sometimes maybe even 3. And we'll give offers of, individual assignments if you prefer. But let me just read through one more time the ongoing assignments that you can use to develop your intuition. Choose all of them or one of them, but choose the things that are the most interesting for you, because interest shows an affinity for being able to develop. If you have interest, you're more likely to get a positive result. So if something in here, it seems really boring to you, it's not the time to try it. Maybe one day it'll seem interesting, but today is not the day. Okay, we're going to log our dreams in. We're going to quiet this. I'm sorry, this one's not about if you don't feel like doing it. Can I mandate one homework assignment? One. I don't like rules either, but I'm going to mandate one. Quiet your mind 3 to 4 times a week for at least 20 minutes. And we talked about how many ways you can quiet your mind. So it's not a chore, it's a pleasure. You can walk your dog, you can sit and listen to music, you can sit outside on the deck and listen to birds, you can take a hot bath, you can do something zen, you can wash a bit of dishes while nobody's around if it takes you 20 minutes, you can crochet, you can drive with nobody in the car. There's so many ways that you can quiet your mind. Exercise, meditate, yoga. There's just so many ways to do it. You don't even have to repeat a method for 30 days straight and get your 3 to 4 times a month in. So quiet your mind. Jot down your great ideas. I think we really illustrated tonight why jotting down your good ideas is such an excellent tool for intuition development. A lot of people are hesitant to jot down their good ideas because they fear a sense of responsibility once a good idea is written. Now it's there and I can see it and I can remember it. That means I have to act on it. It's not true. Just jot them down because it will begin to show you how this works. Like what is the source of these good ideas? You start to see patterns. You start to see energy. You start to see stories appear just in the ideas that pop into your head. Okay, the last thing is on an ongoing basis. I know I talked a lot about attachments, but just review your own list of attachments so you can have a sense of, this isn't about remove all your attachments. This is about when you play in the intuition development arena, try to choose areas in which you are free of attachments as much as possible, because that'll give you wins instead of losses, which will be encouraging, validating, and help to grow your intuition even more. And that's it for tonight, people. Any last comments? Anybody want to unmute? Something to say? We're all good. We're all good. All right. Oh, and just so you know, I think I left out in the write-up. Maybe I'll try to go back and do that. But we're also going to work on our relationships with our bodies. I don't think I talked about health in my write-up, but that's definitely a huge part of it, is to be intuitive with your body. Okay. Sometimes it's one of the harder areas for people, but we're going to address that too in our classes. Okay. So good night, everybody. It was great to see you. It's great to know you. And I will see you all again very soon.